Ms. Sutley, thanks for your testimony. Ms. Sutley, in your testimony, you mentioned the President's executive order on the Chesapeake Bay, representing Pennsylvania, and actually in the Agriculture Committee, I chair the subcommittee on conservation, energy, forestry, and jurisdiction over Watershed, so it certainly caught my eye. You know, the TMDL is now in phase 2, and we are still without an economic analysis. And this is a very serious issue that is already having extraordinary and devastating impacts on my home state of Pennsylvania and throughout my congressional district. Now, the EPA has told me in writing that they expect the cost and benefits analysis to be completed by the end of the year, but there's no firm deadline for completion. And in fact, the EPA has also indicated to me that, and I quote from communications, the cost-benefit analysis being conducted by EPA will not change the TMDLs, end quotes, outcomes or in regards to outcomes or implementation. Frankly, in my opinion, prejudging that the facts will be ignored. So my first question is, why does this administration continue to push through these enormously impactful regulations? And make no mistake that TMDL is a regulation without performing basic economic and social analysis of the impacts.
And the President committed us to enact regulations in a cost-effective and sensible way. It's reflected in his executive order on regulatory review. I can't speak to the specific circumstances with EPA, but happy to look into it.
Well, you referenced in your testimony, though, specifically the executive order in Chesapeake Bay, and to show that we do have good bipartisanship. My friend from California, I think, was the one that talked about putting the cart before the horse, and it seems to me cost-benefit analysis would be done before you drive out enormously impactful regulations. And so, you know, I know what the President says, but I want to see that line up with the actions of the administration. My follow-up question is, why even do such an analysis if it has no impact on the regulations being forced on the states?
Well, the Chesapeake Bay is a very important watershed for the region and for the country, and the executive order was focused on trying to get the federal agency working with the states to try to make some progress to addressing the health of the Chesapeake Bay, and that there's an emphasis on working with all of the not only working with the states, but all of the affected stakeholders in the region, and so the and EPA and other agencies working very closely, EPA working very closely with the Department of Agriculture in reaching out into the agricultural communities to try to find solutions that work for everyone. So.
Well, and I appreciate that, but when, you know, and I like being a team player. That's been important to me throughout my whole life, professionally and personally. But when I'm coming together with a team, unless I'm working with a group of carpenters, I don't bring a hammer. And that's what the Obama administration has brought to this, quote, teamwork to the states. And so, I mean, how do you justify the Obama administration having no problem coming down hard with the hammer, but provide no funding to the public and to the states for this compliance based on, you know, based on a cost-benefit analysis that has not been completed yet, and that the EPA has acknowledged that they're, in communications that I've had with them and my respective subcommittee chairmanship, that they're not even going to consider in terms of the TMDLs.
Well, again, I think that clearly the health of the Chesapeake Bay depends on everyone working together.
Well, I would invite you up to the Pennsylvania 5th District. You know, our agriculture community, our kids still swim in those streams. Local watersheds are important, and if the local watersheds are clean, you know, I can't account for much of what goes on to the Chesapeake Bay, hundreds of miles away. So we're not here talking about a commitment to a national treasure, which is what the Chesapeake Bay is. We're talking about a failed approach to policy that is based on a hammer and really a total lack of. And I'm running out of time. So one last question: since the states have been egregiously hurt by this administration's failure to conduct cost-benefit analysis, or even worse, even worse, prejudging that they're not going to use the findings in the TMDLs, perhaps the states are better positioned to make honest environmental impact determinations. And as Chair of the Environmental Quality, I would ask you your thoughts on that.
Well, as I said, I can't speak to the specifics with EPA, but I would be happy to follow up on you. But the states are obviously a very important part of how we're going to improve our environment, and it's important that we at CEQ and others work closely with the states on these important issues.
Right. And my time has expired, but I would also offer that I think the folks in the states probably care more about the environment of their respective states than what agencies in Washington do. So it's like, let's let them have primacy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.